You know that moment in a dream where everything's normal and then a penguin starts driving a car and nobody reacts? That's what watching Grimsby versus Manchester United felt like. Except the penguin won. On penalties. Against Manchester United. In a stadium where the snack bar still sells Bovril. Grimsby Town 2, Manchester United 2. And then for the history books and future Netflix documentaries, 12-11 on penalties to the League Two club. You didn't mishear that. 12-11. A penalty shootout so long I aged. My soul aged. At one point I was pretty sure both teams were just going to keep scoring until FIFA invented a new rule to stop it. They say Cup Magic is dead. Well, Cup Magic just came back in full sequins and glitter and smacked United across the face with a haddock. Let's get straight into it, because this wasn't a game, this was a seance. United looked like they were trying to summon the ghost of 2014 MK Dons, and surprise! He appeared, wearing a Grimsby kit. The first half, oh my days. Manchester United came out like they'd been asked to write an essay about how football works without using Google. From kickoff, actual Grimsby, played with purpose, shape, intensity. Meanwhile, that United's midfield looked like someone had glued magnets to their boots and then hidden the opposite poles across the pitch. Chaos. Disconnection. And somewhere Bruno Fernandes was warming up on the sidelines, trying not to make eye contact with anyone. Then came the first goal. 22 minutes in, Vernam gets across from the right, takes a touch like he's ordering from a cafe, and smashes it near post. Andre Onana gets beat, again, at his near post like it's his favorite recurring nightmare. You could hear the sigh of disbelief in stereo from anyone who had watched United last season. You knew. You just knew this wasn't going to be a routine win. And then, 8 minutes later, I was already struggling to process what I'd seen, but Onana decided to really stretch the limits of comedy. A hopeful cross floats in. He comes out like Superman, but forgets to do the catch the ball part. Warren is standing there like he's been gifted a free coffee and just taps it in. 2-0 to Grimsby. The crowd is not just singing, they're levitating. Look, I'm not saying it was amateur hour, but the way United defended in that first half, you could have convinced me this was a Premier League S1 versus a group of recently thawed cavemen playing their first match after escaping the ice. It wasn't even that Grimsby were outrageously good, although they were brave, crisp, and tight. It's that United were unraveling like a discount jumper in the rain. You know what's worse than being 2-0 down to Grimsby at halftime? Being 2-0 down deservedly. Grimsby should have been 3 up. In fact, they were 3 up briefly, but the goal was ruled out for a very debatable offside where Maguire may or may not have accidentally reinvented quantum physics to reset the play. And just when you thought United would pull themselves together, the second half started, with 3 substitutions. Amram rolled the dice like a man who had just learned the concept of urgency mid-pep talk. On came Fernandes, on came Mbumo, on came De Ligt. It felt desperate. It was desperate. Then the tide shifted. Or, more precisely, Grimsby did that classic underdog thing where they started to feel the size of the task. They dropped deeper, gave up more of the ball. You could sense it, like they were afraid to want it too much. 75 minutes. That's when the dam cracked. Mbumo, doing what actual Premier League players should do, slipped through and rolled one into the corner like he'd been saving it for a rainy day, which, by the way, it very much was. Monsoon conditions. Biblical rain. You could barely tell where the grass ended and the swimming pool began. 89 minutes. You knew it was coming. The Man Ute kitchen sink had been launched. Mbomo had become the most dangerous man in the county. And finally, with a whipped corner, there was Harry Maguire. Yes, the one Grimsby's 8-year-olds were pointing at earlier, powering a header in at the back post. 2-2. All square. Order restored? No, Grimsby didn't buckle. Not then. Not even when the script was crying for it. The added minutes ticked down. You expected heartbreak. You expected an agonizing late goal from the big team. But they stood. They refused the script. And then came the shootout. This was not a penalty shootout. This was a footballing endurance event. An 18-minute marathon of nerves, rain, and the existential collapse of one of the biggest clubs in Europe. The first 10, everyone scores. Then Matthews Cunha steps up. He can win it. 1 penalty, that's all it takes. He pulls rank, takes the ball, and dribbles it. A soft, miserable attempt. Saved. Saved. Pym dives low to his left and scoops it up like a father catching a toddler's wayward underarm throw. From there, it's just carnage. Penalty after penalty. Goalkeeper steps up. Yep, Onana takes one. And credit where due, he actually scores. That's where I genuinely lost track of whether I was watching a football match or the world's most cursed PowerPoint presentation on hubris. And then, after 26 penalties, 26, it's Mbeumo again, the hero of the second half. Steps up for the second time, and he blazes it crossbar. Gone. Game over. 12-11. Grimsby Town. The team whose squad could fit inside Old Trafford's laundry budget. The team with a £3 million squad value versus a team closer to £1 billion. The team whose fans were literally singing, "You're getting sacked in the morning" in the first half. They didn't just win. They lived a movie. They beat United at their own game. Chaos, penalties, and late drama. Everything Manchester United used to thrive on. Grimsby stole it and served it up with fish and chips and a wink. And for Manchester United? I mean, you tell me. Amorim said after the game that it wasn't the goalkeeper, it was everything. He's not wrong. This wasn't about one player. This was a collective unraveling. An embarrassment so complete, the only thing missing was a sad violin soundtrack and slow-mo replays narrated by David Attenborough. Let's be honest. Grimsby should have ended it in normal time. The fact this went to penalties was a cosmic joke, but that's what made the shootout so surreal. Like the football gods needed to make sure this humiliation was extra crispy. Drawn out. Poetic. Shakespearean, if Shakespeare had written about crossbars and fluffed panenkas. You sit there watching Fernandes and Maguire take penalties in front of a sea of soggy, delirious Grimsby fans, and you realize this is why we watch. Not the billion-pound transfers, not the corporate Twitter posts. This. The madness, the possibility. The heartbreak and hysteria served back-to-back in one soaking wet, wonderfully stupid, unforgettable night. More than 2 hours after kickoff, Grimsby Town are still standing. Manchester United are walking, slowly, heads down, Amorim mumbling to himself in 6 languages. And the rest of us, we are wide-eyed, damp, confused, and weirdly emotional. I still can't believe it. And we're not even done yet. Let's talk about the men in the middle of the storm. The players. The ones who made this match into an actual fever dream. Some soared, some vanished. Some committed career arson in real time. Let's begin with the man who, for better or worse, became the emotional nucleus of the whole evening. Andre Onana. Now, when your goalkeeper makes 2 massive errors in the first 30 minutes against a team that eats their post-match sandwiches on a bus, you're not exactly setting the tone. And these weren't, unlucky errors. These were blooper reel, will haunt your testimonial dinner kind of mistakes. First, he gets beaten at his near post by Charles Vernam. At this point, I'm not even mad, I'm just fascinated. Is it performance art? Has he been possessed by the ghost of United goalkeepers past? Is this a statement on late-stage capitalism? Whatever it was, the ball goes through him like he's made of damp tissue paper. And then, like a magician who only knows one trick and keeps doing it worse, he tries to punch across and misses everything but the moisture in the air. Warren's goal was less a finish and more a tap-in at a comedy roast. At 2-0, it wasn't just that Onana looked broken. It's that we knew he looked broken. And yet, he scores a penalty in the shootout. Life is full of contradictions. He was a war crime and a warrior in the same match. Now let's pan over to Harry Maguire. Yes, that Harry Maguire. The man whose name is sung by children and journalists alike, usually as the punchline. But here, let me tell you, for one misty night in Grimsby, he was a lighthouse in a storm of mediocrity. Captain's armband or not, he dragged that team back into the light. Did he start shaky? Yes. Did he recover with a bullet header in the 89th minute to force penalties? Absolutely. And then he steps up in the shootout, lashes his into the top left like he's been waiting to do that since the dawn of time, and just walks back. No fuss, just vibes. For all the mockery, there's something very human about Maguire's journey. And tonight, he wasn't a meme. Bryan Mbeumo. What a poetic disaster. The man who sparked United's comeback, slicing in that clinical goal like a scalpel through fog. It was precise, cool, elegant. He looked like the adult in the room. The guy who had seen European nights and didn't panic when it started to drizzle. And yet, football, being the cruel romantic that it is, handed him the final penalty. The 26th, his second of the shootout, the one to keep United alive, and he rattled it off the crossbar like he was trying to take down a satellite. The arc of his night went from savior to sob story faster than you can say League Two. It hurts, and that's why we love it. Let's drag the spotlight to Christy Pym, Grimsby's goalkeeper and man of the match. I don't even know where to start. He didn't just save shots, he time-traveled to make them. Every moment where United tried to turn the tide, Pym was there, throwing hands and legs and the laws of physics into the mix. He saved Cuna's penalty, he made Fernandez work for his chances, and he looked like he was enjoying it. Not surviving. Thriving. Like a man who grew up dreaming of this, and then lived it under floodlights and rainfall. And listen, this Grimsby team, they weren't passengers. Every man played like his next paycheck was tied to the outcome. Tyrell Warren, the second goal scorer, ran himself into the earth's crust. Burns, a one-man emergency service down the wing. Sweeney, Kabia, McJanet, no stars, just steel. Then there was Cameron Gardner. Don't forget him. He had the ball in the net for what would have been 3-0, but was flagged off for a highly debatable offside. Would that have been the end for United? Almost definitely. But the flag went up, and Gardner's goal was erased. Still, the guy looked like he'd crawled out of Football Manager and decided to have his breakout game. On the other side, United's midfield was an actual haunted house tour. Fredrickson looked like he'd been told mid-match that grass is lava. Ugarte got robbed in midfield for the first goal, and then tried to argue with the concept of gravity. Mainu had brief flashes of elegance, but was mostly passing sideways to nobody, like he was performing abstract art. Bruno Fernandes, for his part, came on and did Bruno things. You know what I mean. He ghosted for 10 minutes, then suddenly cracked one from distance and forced a world-class save out of Pym. Then took 2 shootout penalties and buried both like he was checking off chores. Fernandes is a paradox. Always is. But he wasn't the spark they needed. De Ligt? Kind of just stood there, occasionally passed sideways. Took a penalty and scored it because, of course, he did. That's the kind of match it was, defenders converting, strikers collapsing. Let's spare a thought for Matheus Cunha. Not since Fred's long-lost cousins has a footballer been so unlucky and also so underwhelming. He had the game-winning penalty at his feet and hit it like he was kicking a cold potato. Weak. Predictable. Saved. He walked back looking like someone who had just forgotten their lines in the school play. His night will haunt him. Probably already is. And then there's the supporting cast of shame. Dorgu was invisible. Ahmad, a few lively touches early on, and then drowned by puddles and panic. Sesko had 2 headers and missed both, like the concept of aiming was optional. Xerxes came on and booted the best penalty of the night, and then probably realized no one was watching by that point. Mount played left wing-back at one point, which feels like Amorim was trying to solve a crossword puzzle using emojis. As for the Grimsby bench, give them medals. Brown, ice-cold finish in the shootout. Kabia went up twice for penalties. Scored twice. Clark Oduor? Okay, he missed his debut nerves maybe, but even that added to the theater. Every moment, every character contributed to this opera of weird, wonderful, painful football. The thing is, this wasn't just about talent. It was about belief. Grimsby played like they thought they could win. United played like they hoped they wouldn't lose. That's the difference. You can analyze formations, subs, heat maps, but none of that explains how a team of part-timers outlasted Premier League millionaires across 26 penalties, 1 biblical storm, and 90 breathless minutes. It's magic. Cup magic. Pure, unsanitized football absurdity. A night where everything logical took a break, and we were left with the chaos. Grimsby walk away into the third round, legends. Manchester United walk into the weekend with their pants metaphorically around their ankles, and for us, we were lucky enough to watch it happen. This has been Across the Pitch. Over and out.